All right, and we are back. Sorry about that, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there. We do appreciate it. And we'll get Kelly back on the line here in a second. But once again, we are, of course, live here at the Seminole Hard Rock and Roll Poker Open. Having a great time. Kelly Kellner from the Canadian Poker Tour also hanging out on the line with us, telling stories out of school, all sorts of crazy stuff happening. So give me 1 second. I want to get Kelly back on the line here, and we will continue on with everything going on. We are up to 469, by the way, on entries for today's flight. So things looking pretty good. No problem hitting that guarantee, as per usual, here at Seminole Hard Rock here in Hollywood, Florida. And calling Kelly right now. And by the way, you can call the show too, 702-997-3015. It's 702-997-3015. Kelly, we're back.
How are you, my friend? Let me ask you a question, Mark.
Sure.
Are you still using that old Commodore 64, or did you upgrade to that Radio Shack Tandy?
I have a VIC 20.
Okay. That's what I thought might be happening there.
Yeah, the good old VIC 20. Actually, my parents used to have a little computer shop, and they used to sell the Franklins, which was the Apple ripoff, the little Timex thing. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that very well.
The one you could use as a little Frisbee, all that kind of stuff. They had it all. So I'm used to ancient computing for sure.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, welcome back, buddy.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. Yeah, so a lot of excitement going on here at Seminole Hard Rock. We're having a blast. And by the way, Amy Schumer was down here last night. Did you know that?
Really? She's actually coming up to Calgary as well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the back door.
Did you see the show?
I did not. Sold out show.
Yeah, but shouldn't you be backstage? Don't they get you to give performers like Amy Schumer a foot massage after?
Oh, jeez. Would I don't know. I think we're too much into feet on this show, Kelly. It's not good. But hey, by the way, of course, if you come down tonight, we got another show going on too. Did you know that?
What do you got tonight?
Philip Phillips is here this evening. Of course, winner of American Idol, and is going to be playing tonight here at Seminole Hard Rock. So make sure you come down for that as well, along with the poker.
Jeez, I wish I could get a flight there quick, buddy. That sounds like a lot better that's going up in the Great White North there.
Yeah, it sounds like there's nothing going on in the Great White North except snowplows and salting.
Yeah, that little salting, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah. So that's where things are right now. Now we were talking about some other things going on in the poker world, and well, I'll tell you what, I'm not sure which one of these I want to hit first because, of course, two huge stories broke a couple yesterday actually, and may want to start with let's start with that Ultimate Poker situation. Of course, I was trying to do some stuff with Ultimate Poker, and unfortunately it didn't work out. But now ceased operations in New Jersey a few weeks ago, and now they are done. Out of Nevada, have shut down operations. I got the thank you for your service email. Come get your money. I had like $3 on there. So.
Oh really? Well, you doubled your buy-in?
I did, yeah.
Oh boy.
I did much better on WSOP.com for some reason, but yeah, Ultimate Poker is gone, and Kelly, what's your reaction to Ultimate going down after only 19 months of operation?
Well, it's surprising, but I think it's people aren't managing their expectations. A lot of people that get in this business, and I've seen a number of them come and go, and we've dealt with a lot of them throughout the years. Going back before Black Friday with the magazine that we published, a national magazine, Canadian Poker Player, and dealt with a lot of the companies, and with just the rationalization of budgets and advertising and marketing and expectations of well, geez, once we get in there, it's just, we're just going to be making money hand over fist. And the reality is that, without critical mass and the proper liquidity, and, it's not this great win necessarily that entrepreneurs think it's going to be. Just flick the switch on with some new software and get in the game. So, like I say, I've seen a lot come and go, but, definitely surprised as I think, and I know, from an operator standpoint, in terms of what we do in the media business for poker, is that really hoping for this reemergence and growth and rationalization and regulation of the industry. So definitely a little discouraging to see, but perhaps perhaps maybe a little over eager and over anxious in some of the initiatives, and that there's a lot of reasons why that may have been shut down. So
Yeah, and obviously the player liquidity. I mean, there's just not a lot of players out there to play, and WSOP.com popped up on the scene and doubled what Ultimate was doing. Not that they have spectacular numbers on there. I mean, I play on WSOP.com a lot. Just play some small tournaments and stuff, and they're they're lower level tournaments. I mean, they're only getting. I've played in 4-person tournaments on there. I mean,
yeah,
Ultimate was only doing half the traffic. So, I don't know I don't know if it was just because there's just not enough players in Nevada and not being able to, to reach out to other, at least other states, which would be great. But, these states just don't want to sign these reciprocity agreements. And I just think they're being very short sighted on that. I know some people were also talking about the rake and, they couldn't get rake back on it. And, I don't think that some people understand that this is a different ballgame now than it is with what was going on with Poker Stars and Full Tilt. I mean, there was money to give out everywhere, so they could do these rate back deals and everything else and not
yeah.
sweat it. But with so much regulation and everything that goes into this new world of online poker in the U.S., it's those opportunities just aren't there.
Yeah, and I think I think Rakeback actually, as much as there's so much benefit for so many players in that. I think for the new emergence and the new world of online poker, I don't see that as being a reality, and I think that's part of what needs to be re-examined on how this industry is going to reemerge. But you're right. Fundamentally, with the bureaucracy and just the politics and the absolute BS of what's going on from so many different factions and groups. And the fact is, there is an industry. We are all part of an industry that could be very, very profitable and self-sufficient. Uh, it's just so unfortunate that so many different agendas and so many different personalities come in to make the rationalization of a relaunch of online poker in the U.S. and around the world to be what it needs to be. So I believe it's still going to happen, but it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some coordination and some agreements between all levels, from players to operators to regulators to taxation models to implementation of technology. So it's
Yeah,
it's definitely, I think, a bit of a step back, but I think a good reality check for I can't tell you. I got approached again last night by some entrepreneur who has no poker experience but has another company in an unassociated industry with a bunch of programmers that says I'm building new software, and it's gonna be the greatest thing, and we're taking over the poker world, and we're gonna start making $1 million a day. And it's just we've seen it come and go so many times. So I think some strong leaders some strong companies need to come, and with what Party Poker's working on doing and building. And I'm quite close with Gil, who's one of the leaders that we've worked with for 10, 12 years, and some of the people that have been promoted in there, and just getting some substance behind this, and some like I say, the liquidity and critical mass is just so important.
yeah, and of course, there's even more going on in the online world of with Poker Stars changing a lot of the structures, dropping the sponsored players. They've raised their rake, and players are just flipping out all over the place. But I hate to tell everybody that is just saying, oh, Maya's terrible and so on and so forth. But you're dealing with a new world of this. It's going to be regulated, and
Yeah.
these companies have to do the things they need to do to keep their licenses. And Maya's not going to, skirt the rules, and for Poker Stars, and then have their other companies and their other interests get destroyed because of it. It's not going to happen. And I hate to tell everybody, but it's a world where these guys want to make as much money as they can. That's how business works. And I do think that it may be a chink in Poker Stars' armor a little bit now, because some other sites may be able to come in and compete, but they're going to find the same walls are going to be up for them that there is for everybody else. So I mean, it's gonna be a tough time for everybody playing online at this point, no matter what site you're playing on and where you are.
Yeah, yeah, no, like I said, this industry is redefining itself, and I agree with you. I think it's a matter of looking at the business of running these sites, and the fact is that the expectations, there was so much money, as you're saying, being thrown around the players and that, and it was just a free for all. And you can't expect an industry to support itself, and publicly traded companies that have directors that are accountable and responsible for saying, yes, we spent X amount of money on this. When you're dealing in a public market scenario, you've got some fiduciary responsibilities that have to be adhered to. And unfortunately, paying a lot of poker pros and putting up a lot of these type of things and promotions and breakback and things that happen, it's just not a reality in the emergence of the new online poker world.
Nope, it's not. And by the way, I want to say I had a couple of steady listeners in the chat box. See Pete number 2, my good buddy Peter is hanging out there. Jake's in there too. Good to see you there, Jake. Nice to catch some of you guys. I know we don't get to, we're doing more of the internet broadcast when we're on site, and the KLAV show is kind of taking the main focus. But Kelly, I'll tell you what, when we get some TV stuff going, maybe we'll have a little Tonight Show thing going. I think it could be kind of fun.
Well, I think so. I think getting some news magazines, getting some updates, but getting more engagement with the players. I got to tell you, in traveling the country and in each city, for example, in Canada, there is a core group of tremendous poker players, most of which your listeners have never heard of.
Right.
And I tell you what, these guys are strong. Now, a number of them, over the last couple of years, you've seen some great deep runs by a lot of Canadians in main events. But I got to tell you, these names that people are saying, "Oh, we've never heard or seen it," these are guys that have been crushing it in Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal. These are people that we've seen, and since I've been in this business for over 12 years now, names that I've seen for a long, long time. And so, by getting more exposure for this next generation of players, and not necessarily younger players, but just players that have been playing this game for so many years. So I'm looking forward to the tremendous pleasure of introducing so many of my great friends that I've made through this industry that are just have so much to share with the poker world, and some really exciting new things happening up in with Canada. So our my very, very good friend Herb Van Dyke, who has been running the World Poker Showdown for the last few years. He's up in Montreal, and they're reopening the VIP poker room on Kanawaki, which is just up the street from Playground.
Love that place. Love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, you were there for the opening. Now that's
I
beautiful.
was.
They spent $1 million on the reno in there, and we're hopefully going to have that deal pretty much wrapped up, and looking at building a permanent television studio with RFID table and live streaming, and part of our mission with the PokerVision television network is to be doing, like we've all seen these WPT and these Premier Poker and Poker Stars. I watched the EPT show here yesterday. I think it's the 10th time I've watched the hand. My son's sitting here looking at me, going, "How do you know what cards are going to come, Dad?" I said, "Well, because I'm a psychic. I'm a genius."
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
but we've seen this crap and not crap. It's great television, but how many times can you watch the same damn show? So
Yep.
I think, and from our research, people, it's great watching these great glitzy productions. We've spent close to $3 million producing televised poker. And it's awesome having these great production houses and glitzy openings and fancy sets. But the reality is, I believe that when I look at this, I take a look at the poker market and that bottom level of the pyramid, the big wide base of players that are the casual players that aren't making a living from poking, but just love the game and love to play, whether it's once a month, once a week, or once a year, and entertaining and informing and educating them, and just showing, like I say, showcasing the greater players. So if we can start doing shows live from Montreal, live from Vancouver, live from Atlantic City, live from Jacksonville, live from Las Vegas, I think that, you take a look at what they've been doing live from the bike for a while, and, taking with technology, what used to cost us $150,000 per hour to produce a quality television show, now using the RFID technology And with the emergence of of digital editing suites and live streaming capabilities, we can now produce that same show for $20,000 to $25,000 an hour. And by now watching too the way media and the way television is evolving, new media delivery systems, second screen companion programming, you're looking a real emergence of how people are watching sporting events and having a companion app where they can engage on their smartphones and on their tablets. This is the new age, the new generation, and we look to be a real leader in how coverage of as far as my commitment to what I intend to do is continue to build this new media delivery system and engage. So when you're sitting in there and your event is being live streamed, you're at the final table and you can, the hosts are on there, Mark, you and I are on there, and we're going, well, geez, how did he make that read? How did we make that call? Where we can actually engage with them in a scenario. Technology is so fantastic. What we can do for the poker industry, for coverage, and for education and entertainment. So, like I say, I've really found my motivation has just is growing exponentially by the day here right now, as we're getting to the next level of the relaunch of what we plan to do with Canadian Poker Tour, CPT Live, poker in North America and around the world. So.
Yeah, and of course, there's a lot of that out here too in the United States. Obviously, of course, we're here at Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida, for the Rock and Roll Poker Open, and there's so many great players here. You go up to Borgata, and there's a lot of talents. We saw the Pahuja brothers for a great example of guys that were dominant players in Atlantic City that finally made their break on the national stage. I mean, I've been talking about Vinny Pahuja for years now. That
Yeah.
you need to watch out for him and his brother, and and there they were, and these players are everywhere, and it's just a matter of being able to get them the exposure they need, and unfortunately, no online component. Think
Yeah.
at least a small one now, but but there's a lot coming. Hey, and I do have a question in the chat box here too about the Caesars Entertainment situation, which I was gonna maybe save for another day or two, but since it's in the chat box, we'll hit that. Caesars, of course, has been teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, and there's an announcement that was made that this may be coming pretty soon. From the last number I heard, they're about $22 billion in the hole right now,
Mm.
which is just a stunning number. But I think where this really is going to be affecting people is what happens to the World Series of Poker.
Yeah.
This is because if you're looking to sell off assets, I mean, obviously they're going to try and sell properties first, and I've heard rumor that the Rio is one of those properties that could be up for grabs. And we had Seth. I remember 2 years ago at the World Series when Seth Polanski was on the show, he kind of slipped that the World Series may be moving out of the Rio at some point, and
Yeah.
this would explain that that if the Rio, it's just rumors and innuendo at this point, but if the Rio is one of those properties that Caesars sold off, obviously, if they hold the World Series property, that they're gonna have to move it, but that asset is huge for them. I mean that
Mm.
I wouldn't even know what you would pay for the rights to the World Series of Poker, but I could imagine that could take a pretty good chunk out of a $22 billion debt. So what do you think, Kelly? What do you think the future of the World Series of Poker is? Do you think this stays with Caesars, or do you think we're going to have a new owner?
Well, that's it depends on how they've got to restructure and reapproach this. As you said, the way they've looked at monetizing this, and you get so integrated in so many in a large corporation of that size and scope. A lot of that comes down from the vision of the CEO and what their intent is. When you look and you have to restructure, and whether you're coming through some type of a tough economic situation, or whether you're dealing with that and answering to shareholders, is that going to be your priority? Are you going to try and take and get down to your core business and rebuild your business and restructure your business and merge back to profitability? So does that mean that that's the way they're going to go? I think and I haven't really examined their numbers in terms of what that brand generates for revenue, but I think that's going to be a very, very interesting strategic decision on whether they do that, or somebody else or some other organization comes in and does that. So the fact is, it's great. It's been 3-0. It's what people have grown up with, and that's been their experience. But you know what? Fundamentally, whether it's the World Series of Poker, the Canadian Poker Tour, or any other poker brand, it's a matter of keeping the integrity of your product, and giving the players what they want, and continually improving so that you can try and build a business model around making money. And it's I got to tell you something. I've been in this business for 12 years here now in Canada, and it's very, very tough in the Canadian marketplace to make money in the poker business.
Yep.
When you take a look at the reg fees, which in Canada get split with the host venues, or you're paying for labor, and then once you're paying for advertising, it's a very, very tough market to be profitable in. And a lot this we've seen a lot of companies come and go, and we've been fortunate to have weathered a number of storms and that. But players have expectations of, well, why don't you give up more, or why don't you put up more prizing and all that. And I think once the players start to really examine, where do we make money from, and how do we make money, whether it's the CPT, WSOP, or whoever, you're not going to charge players anymore. You get enough complaints already now in the bigger events for the size of the reg fees. So, like I say, it's a tough segment that really needs a rationalization. So, you look at Amaya, what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they're doing it. You look at what we're trying to do and how we're trying to rebuild our business model to make it make sense. So, rather than running a ton of events, if we can, focus and limit our fixed costs by running, 4 major events, by getting more engagement from advertisers, by trying to take advantage of opportunities within media, and drawing more attention and viewership, that we can maybe go to additional and non-traditional poker sponsors and monetizing it that way. But I got to tell you something, in the last, it's now with our company, I haven't taken a salary for 7 years now.
Damn.
It's and we've struggled, and I think it's people can see that, we're trying, and now we've really started to rebuild some momentum here this year. And coming out of a tougher economic climate, there's more money that's now we see coming around. We see field sizes are now starting to increase again. So that bodes well. And now if we can rebuild this business model so that it makes sense. But I got to tell you something. Yeah, my family has supported this public company that we've got for the last 5 years now. Our advertising revenue for the magazine, like, we're one of the few magazines that's still kind of kicking around, and there's a ton of them have come and gone in Canada. We're the only ones that are still here, and it's tough when all of a sudden, we used to sell Full Tilt, that back outside cover, for shit that used to cover probably half our nut for the magazine. Well,
Right.
you lose that, you lose your inside front cover and a few double page spreads. Well, very, very tough model.
Yeah, no doubt. So, we'll see where that all ends up. And Casino Examiner, thank you for the question on that. And I just wonder if and it's interesting when you think about the World Series possibly going to somebody else. Obviously, PokerStars tried to buy it a couple of years back. We didn't hear what the number was, but there's going to be somebody out there who wants to grab it up, and maybe a company like, for example, the Seminole tribes down here, or Hard Rock, and some of these other facilities could be interested in hopping on something like that, bringing the World Series to Florida and other properties. I think there's so much more room for growth in the World Series, and I think right now they're making some dumb mistakes too that are just shooting themselves in the foot, where they could be doing so much better. There's definitely room for a turnaround, and maybe making the World Series a true World Series, as opposed to what's happening now with the segmented events that aren't working out and so on. I mean, it's a very interesting topic. So thank you for
Yeah,
bringing that
and
up.
the fact too that Las Vegas is, it's changed. You have world class casino facilities in so many places around the world now outside of Las Vegas, which wasn't the situation 10 or 15 years ago.
Right.
And so there's so many properties and places. Listen, whether you get on a plane to go to Las Vegas or go to wherever it is, I don't think Las Vegas is the be all and end all, and it's unfortunate because I think we're seeing a lot of properties, and I think you're seeing a lot of these local larger facilities all around North America taking such a piece out of that. Why? For Canadians, for example, why go down there where you've got, first of all, you've got taxation issues around poker tournaments that you don't have in Canada. You've got facilities that can hold, can handle the bigger field sizes up here now. I'm working on something here for coming up this August that, like I say, will be could very much rival the size of the World Series. It's getting facilities. I don't want to talk too much about it yet because it's still in work in progress, but we've come a long way, and so. People need to make great decisions where they're going to spend that limited entertainment dollar that they've got. So if the World Series moved out of Las Vegas or moved to, like you say, to a group like that, I think it'd be a hell of a move. It'd be very aggressive, but boy, I tell you, there's a lot of money that can come into some properties. So I think this is now where entrepreneurship and where this is true visionaries around this industry can really start to aggregate some funds and look at a way of making it very exciting going forward. And I hope, I hope that it is acquired, or I hope it is rebuilt or relaunched, or however this emergence is going to happen, is going to be done with people that have true intent for the integrity of the game itself. And
Yep.
that's, I know that's what we try and do up here.
Absolutely. Well, Kelly, I may put you on hold for a second because I have a call coming in here from one of our listeners. So hang on here just a second. We'll get that. Hi, caller. How are you? Caller, can you hear me there? Hello? Oh, no, we lost him. All right, we'll get Kelly back on. But if you want to call back in, that number's on the screen, 702-997-3015 is the call-in number. Did try to get that caller on there. Unfortunately, we'll see if we can get him back. And Kelly, it's funny. I mean, I didn't really plan on talking about a lot of this coming up, but continuing on with this discussion, one thing that I come from a world, where I did a lot of sales and management. I also coached volleyball for 20 years, and was involved in planning of a lot of major events, and small events too. But I also understood, how the process worked for hosting the national championships for USA Volleyball. And one of the things that they do every year, and you look at the NCAA and the Super Bowl, they're bidding to host that tournament. And,
Absolutely, yeah.
And that generates so much more revenue than just having, okay, this is our set site, this is where it's going to be. When you introduce competition in as a factor as to who's going to be holding an event and putting together the best deal for you, putting out bids may not be a bad idea. Oh, my caller's calling back in here, Kelly. Let me give me 1 second here. Hang on.
Yep.
All right, and we got our caller back on. Hi, how are you?
I like turtles.
What? Oh, well, that was worth it. I don't even know what he said. That's okay. Hey, Kelly, I like Thursdays or something. I don't know what that was. That was cute. That was really cute.
That's it.
Those are my listeners.
Put me on hold. I lost the screen.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Thank God you did. Oh, my listeners, I love them to death. But is that something that I think could be introduced into the process as a bidding, the opportunity to bid for venues worldwide to host the World Series of Poker?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I think as a player, fundamentally where I come from, I think that'd be fantastic. And whether it's in Las Vegas, or whether it's in Florida, or whether it's in Europe, or whether the ability to plan and see the world a little bit, and to travel around and experience new things. Like, listen, Las Vegas has so much to offer, and you can never do it all. So that fundamentally that's a great start. But I personally quite think that it could be implemented. I think that's a brilliant way of really making it more sense and building the integrity of the financial model around it.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll see where that all turns up. It's going to be a lot of not a lot of fun for Caesars dealing with it, but could be something that's going to benefit the players in the long run. Maybe no more $4 bananas and $5. I mean, I got to tell this story real quick before we commercial break. I was, of course, at the main event covering that. I paid $5 for a 12-ounce soda. 5.
You should be drinking healthier drinks than them. You know how much sugar's in that soda, Mark?
Yeah, I know, but I needed some caffeine. I was dying.
Okay, no
But
problem. I hear you
five,
though. It's
$5. It's $4 for a banana. I remember at the series this year, I paid like six plus dollars for a pack of crackers and an iced tea. I mean, the players are getting gouged on this stuff, and the fans are getting gouged on it. And then when we're and this is a true story. A former playmate, Adina was who's going to be playing down here. I'm sure we'll get to see her. The Poker Bunny is going to be here at Seminole Hard Rock. Looking forward to saying hi to her again. It was 2 a.m., Kelly. 2 a.m., right? We're sitting in the media area, and the seating area in the front, which I'm sure you probably saw on TV, a lot of open seats at that point. We had some players eliminated. She was sitting in the set of seats above us, and she asked me to see if I could get her in down on the next level. The security at 2 a.m. would not let her in without one of the wristbands because those seats are reserved for players and their families. But half of them have gotten cleared out.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing, and I've had runarounds, of course, with security, with my daughter at the World Series, with them saying, "Oh, this is a gaming area." Well, maybe it's not. Well, it is. Yeah, it's not. In the hallways at the Rio.
Yeah, I remember you're having that. Yeah, I think it comes down to proper event management. And listen, a lot of these events, there's so much. I tell you, you've seen it behind the scenes, and so much that goes into infrastructure of making these things happen that most places don't have qualified event staff that are engaging those details of player experience. And I think a lot of them miss out and really miss the boat. You see that a lot in Canada. I've seen some stuff that just absolutely makes my head shake in terms of customer service and players that are, like I say, have a ridiculous amount of money in their pocket that are just treated so poorly. So I think the entire casino industry, I think there needs to be some rationalization and some appreciation for that client's base, and the players need to stand up and speak more for what they want, whether it comes for standing there and letting management know about the kind of experiences they're having, or when it comes to running events and the kind of events that are having. Players have the ability to go in there and make a bit of noise. And I've been doing this for years, and I've pissed a lot of people off because of it, because I say the things that I guess most people don't want to say. But the reality is that when you're running an event and there's some things that you should know better to do and you don't do, what do you do? Just let them go? Just let them go? Let them off the hook? I don't agree with that. Like I say, I got myself in some trouble recently, but I played an event that was just ridiculous what happened, I think the players need to make the operators, make the casinos, make the host venues and the tours absolutely accountable for giving them the experience for what they're paying for.
Right. Yeah, and just to do some of the things I just saw at the main, just here at the the main event final table, shocking to me, just shocking that you're trying to build a fan base and a customer base, and you're doing stuff like that. I mean, it's just it's just insane. Well, let's get another commercial break in here, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Dan Coleman, my good buddy. So should be an interesting discussion there. He had some little thoughts on 2+2, and we're going to break that down. So let's step back, take one more break, and we'll be right back for the rest of the show here live from the Seminole Hard Rock Rock and Roll Poker Open here in Hollywood, Florida. So stick around, everybody. We'll be right back. Hi everyone, Mark here. If you're a poker player like me and looking for something different and exciting to play, you should give open-faced Chinese poker a shot. It has just the right mix of skill, luck, plus a huge dose of the fun factor we're all looking for. There's a reason open-faced Chinese poker has everyone from the recreational player to the top pros hooked on its thrills, action, and unique social interactions you won't find in Hold'em. An incredible game like this has got to be worth checking out. And it's easy to learn, especially by using the ABC Chinese Poker app. Download the ABC Chinese Poker app on iTunes today and find out what everyone's talking about. And if you have questions about the game, tweet at ABC Chinese Poker and they'll be glad to help you along. So join the open-faced Chinese poker community today with the ABC Chinese Poker app, and we'll see you at the tables.
One man, his lucky shirt, an unforgettable night, and a winning streak that never seemed to end. That's how Blind Squirrel began, and we haven't looked back since. We make the clothes that we want to wear for the places where we want to look and feel our best. The game, the speakeasy, and the casino floor. Blind Squirrel's small batch, high-quality gear is for people too busy grabbing life by the nuts to bother with crappy, ill-fitting clothing. Because like you, we prefer our nights long, our drinks strong, and our lucky shirt to be our most comfortable. So look good, be lucky, and visit blindsquirrelapparel.com for your new favorite shirt. As an added bonus, you'll receive 20% off your purchase with the promo code HOKE, H-O-K-E. You can also pick up Blind Squirrel apparel at the Borgata in Atlantic City and in Las Vegas at all Masura stores at Mandalay Bay, Monte Carlo, The Mirage, and MGM Grand. Look good and be lucky with Blind Squirrel apparel.
The poker action never stops at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. We have millions of reasons for you to be a part of our 4th annual Seminole Hard Rock Rock and Roll Poker Open, November 13th through December 3rd. Time to go all in. Opening event starts November 13th with a $500,000 guaranteed prize pool. Play in any of the events leading up to the championship at the premier poker destination. The Seminole Hard Rock Rock and Roll Poker Open Championship begins November 28th through December 3rd with a guaranteed prize pool of $2 million. Final table of the championship will be live streamed by Poker Night in America and aired on CBS Sports. Space is limited. Visit shrpo.com or the Poker Room for registration and details. Only at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Hollywood. Must be 21 to play slots and table games and at least 18 to play live poker. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-888-ADMIT-IT.
I'm Dutch Boyd, two-time WSOP bracelet winner, and I want to share my story with you. 12 years as a pro has taught me a lot. For the last year, I've boiled it all down into a tell-all book, 90,000 words. In Poker Tilt, I take you on my journey through all the ups and downs that poker has to offer, all the manic highs and hellish lows of every bad beat and lucky draw. So go to www.pokertilt.com to read more, or just go buy the new book on Amazon or Kindle right now, pokertilt.com. I guarantee you'll enjoy the ride.
It's time for you to check out RogueWire.com. News, sports, entertainment, and the internet home of The Mark Hoke Show. Don't wait. Let the sparks fly from your computer at RogueWire.com. And of course, RogueWire.com is powered by BlueRail.net. For over 2 years, The Mark Hoke Show has trusted BlueRail.net as their exclusive host, and you can too. Visit BlueRail.net for top-level web hosting, website building and maintenance, one-on-one customer service, and much more. It's time to get on board with your winning combination, BlueRail.net and RogueWire.com. How far do you want to go?
There's nothing better than sitting down to play poker with good friends and cutting loose. And that's what you're going to find when you tune in to Poker Night in America. Poker Night in America is revolutionizing televised poker in a big way. With all the action you love and the hilarious fun you've been missing. Come take a seat at the table with all your favorite players, old and new, with Poker Night in America. Sunday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network. And don't forget to visit the show online at pokernight.com. So pull up a chair and join us Sundays on Poker Night in America. PokerShop.com is your one-stop shop for all your poker and game room needs. PokerShop.com has you covered with an incredible variety of poker chips and supplies, top-quality playing cards, plus gaming tables and room accessories, just like you'd find in your favorite casino. And if you're looking to spruce up your man cave, we offer a wide selection of decor options, from lighting to mirrors and portable bars to bub stools, to make your game room the one all your friends and family will be talking about. So for everything you need to make your game night a great night, go to www.pokershop.com and receive 10% off your purchase with the code HOKE, H-O-K-E. You supply your friends, we supply everything else. Live it, love it. Pokershop.com.
Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Then follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show and like our Facebook page at The Mark Hoke Show for show news and outstanding poker content from around the world. Plus, enjoy the show anytime by subscribing to our podcasts on iTunes or at markhokeshow.podbean.com. We're even on your mobile phone at markhokeshow.podbean.com/mobile. Thanks for listening and being a part of The Mark Hoke Show.
This is the Mark Hoke Show.
The Mark Hoke Show.
Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
And there we go. Turn the microphone on. That's always a plus. We're back here at the Seminole Hard Rock Rock and Roll Poker Open here in Hollywood, Florida. Having a great time. Kelly, 469 on the flight here. The guarantee,
That's good numbers.
yeah, already guarantee is met with one more flight to go. Pretty cool. Of course, I'm Mark Hoke. Thanks for joining us here on the show. We're, of course, back on our internet broadcasts here, and joined by the man from Canadian Poker Tour and so much more. The guy who needs to call 188-admit-it, Kelly Kellner.
Hey, good to be with you. Enjoying a little time with you on air here today, my friend.
Yeah, do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hang around with us. Always makes this a lot of fun having an extra body around here. But yeah, pretty exciting. We've got this guarantee met for the $500,000 guaranteed event kicking this thing off. Once again, still a flight to go here at 6 p.m. So plenty of chance to come down here and make a little money if you're in the area. So please join us. Horse tournament started at noon as well. Big stack, no limit hold'em re-entry, $250 buy-in starting off tomorrow, along with a six max $750,000 guaranteed event, $1,100 buy-in kicking off Sunday as well. So a great weekend to kick things off here at the Seminole Hard Rock Poker Open. By the way, I want to say a happy post-birthday to Jose over there. He is known as the soda bottle water guy here at Seminole Hard Rock, one of the great servers. He does have competition here, though, because one of the other guys does soda bottle water cocktail coffee. So, Jose is a challenger here as the number one server here at the Seminole Hard Rock, but I wanted to wish him a happy birthday on the show. Very, very popular guy here. If you come down, you'll know him when you see him and hear him for sure. All right. Yeah, by the way, speaking of all these speaking of ghouls and bad things going on, just finished up Halloween, and Dan Coleman is at it again, Kelly. He's at it.
I was reading that earlier this morning. In fact, I just pulled it up here again and just read it right now. And boy, I tell you, I'm personally not a big fan of going into social media and making these dramatic and overwhelmingly outrageous comments. And I think if you got a problem with somebody, you go and you address it with them, or you do it in a forum where a guy's there to be able to stand up or defend himself. I'm of the old school. I used to, when I had a problem growing up in school, we used to go up behind the arena and settle it and shake hands afterwards and be friends. And this is. I just not a supporter of making those type of comments. I think are just over the top. I think they're inappropriate. If you feel that, I think you can have a way of with some tact, but just as one human being to another here, you don't talk crap like that. I find it inappropriate and I find it offensive.
Yeah, and if you missed what got said, Dan Coleman was on the site that shall remain nameless here on the Mark Hoke Show. Got on there and put this post up talking about Phil Hellmuth. It's embarrassing that we have to share a profession with whores like this guy. After I win one drop, he immediately comes on stage to shake my hand in front of a camera and congratulate me, as if he's the gatekeeper to the poker world and welcoming me inside. It's truly pathetic that a 40-year-old would behave the way he does at the table, not to mention how spineless he is, just willing to take any sponsorship regardless of the company's integrity. Hey, anything for a payday. Really makes me sad to think there's a chance that some people may look up to this charlatan. People of his attitude and character are a cancer to this world. And obviously did this on a forum. This is the second time. We've heard from Dan 3 times since he won the one drop, of course, refusing to do interviews at the end of the one drop. And, of course, when he won the main event here at Seminole Hard Rock earlier this year, pocketing another, $1.8 million or somewhere in that ballpark, refused to do an exit interview with even the staff here. They had Shannon Elizabeth down here, and a team that was putting together a nice storyline going through the main event, and then Dan just shut it down. And now he's done 2 forum posts and worn a T-shirt on a live stream. All opportunities that no one can respond, no one can say anything back to him. He doesn't have, he doesn't get questioned immediately for what he's saying, and here he is calling out. I know there's people love and hate Phil Hellmuth, and there's reasons that you could not like Phil, but the one thing that I think you can't deny is that Phil Hellmuth is the most recognizable poker player in the world. Along with maybe Daniel Negreanu, but I think people recognize Phil a little bit more outside of poker than Daniel. And here's a guy that has put himself out there. He didn't have to do that either, but he's doing it because he wants to be an ambassador of the game. Is he a little bit of a narcissist? Sure, and I get that point. But at the same time, you're attacking the guy that's representing the game and is bringing players in. And Dan Coleman's not making this money without Phil Hellmuth, Kelly. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I've listen, when I first met Phil Hellmuth, I expected I had my perception of him from what I'd seen, and when Huck Seed won my heads up, my $5,000 buy-in heads up at the Canadian Open, Phil actually wrote the article for our magazine about Huck, and I was down at the Bay 101 with Gavin Smith, and we went out to a hockey game, hooked up with Matt Savage, and Phil invited us down. And I got to tell you, he was not what I expected. He was gracious and he was supportive. We ended up going to his house, a group of us: Joe Seabach, Wayne Flack. It's a great poker life experience. And, he spent time. He took me back into his office, and, we just sat down and we talked about poker and some things to this day that I think about when I'm in a tournament that he said to me that helped my game. And so, but what was interesting is then we saw him about 6 hours later in the parking lot at the Bay 101. And he was a different guy because he went into mode of being the character that he is and the role that he plays. And listen, that's cool. I think that's awesome. And like you say, you love him or hate him. I think he's been he's done so much for the game, done so much outside of the world for the game, leveraging who he is and what he's done, so to have what I consider this to be an absolute punk move. Listen, if somebody said that to me, I'd want to take them out and kick their ass. I think that's just absolutely inappropriate, low class. I think it's disgusting, and I think he's a punk for doing it.
Well, I was thinking about this after I saw the comments, and I said, what does this equate to? Here's a guy that could be a new face of poker if he chose it. He doesn't want to be, he has his reasons, which I think are so hypocritical, it's ridiculous. But, here's a guy that, honest to God, now has put up a forum post ripping poker. He's put up a forum post ripping Phil Hellmuth. He goes on, a broadcast with his, cute little Save Gaza shirt. You know what the nickname for somebody like that is when they do this kind of stuff online and do it where in anonymous places where they don't have to respond to what they say? What is that called, Kelly?
I don't know. You tell me.
A troll.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That is a troll. So my suggestion at this point is, I think we got a new nickname.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got a new nickname. He is the troll.
To be honest with you, my take on this is someone of such low character of doing it. Like I said, I've been attacked online a couple of times too, and I just love to have some of these guys to have the balls and sit down face to face and really understand and not attempt to deceive and mislead or make these type of comments, calling somebody a whore in the industry. Like that's it's just disgusting, and giving him too much limelight or too much notoriety for this. I think I think he's a punk, and as far as I'm concerned, I'd love to be able to sit at his table and have a real discussion where you can talk man to man.
Yeah,
it's nice to come up and go onto your computer and be the voice of your own means and your own volitions. But to do something like this where you don't have to defend yourself, like I say, if somebody did that to me, I'd kick his ass.
I would, I mean, I would challenge Dan, and I'll say this right now: Dan is more than welcome to come on the show along with Olivier Bousquet. It's amazing how every time I come down here, one of these guys does something incredibly crazy. But I would challenge him to come on the show and defend this and answer questions on the spot, because it's easy to sit there and just sit out there and snipe. And you can criticize Phil for whatever role you think he may have had in Ultimate Bet, or that he is a publicity whore. But the thing is that he's the guy that's putting the game out there. And Dan, I just don't think that Dan has a clear understanding, between the comments that he made with about how poker's such a dark world, and people shouldn't get into it. But then he's turned around and he's the money that he's making is on the backs of every poker player in the world.
For sure.
That one drop,
even on a little different level, I'll tell you something. I've met so many people in this business in the last 12 years, and which started out from when I was growing up as a kid, my love of playing this game. And as I emerged in this game, it taught me so much about myself. I've spoken at a couple of schools and universities talking about, I believe poker should be taught in every commerce program. Because really, what's the difference when you're sitting at a poker table or a boardroom table? And whether it's your land lease or your asset or whatever you're selling, and that you can't compete with the guy at the other end of the table. Your body language, your personal experience, your reads. How do you handle yourself about the situation? I've learned so much about myself playing this game.
Yep.
And I tell you what, I have made some fantastic relationships and friendships. And I'll tell you what, about 2% of them are some really, truly rotten sons of what.
Yeah.
Really, there are some really, really shitty people around, which are a very, very small percentage. And in fact, I've found it quite discouraging in this industry at times when that 2% has gone online behind the shroud of the internet and behind all accountability and responsibility. And I've just had enough. Like I just hate to see crap like this. Like I say, poker's been it hasn't been profitable or outstanding for me yet, but it's been an interesting experience. And as an entrepreneur and a promoter, I want to see the game go, and I want to create better experiences and create value for people. To go out there and even just like I say, whether you're talking about poker, whether you're talking about football, or whether you're talking about politics, or whatever you're talking about, that he is a coward. He is an absolute coward. And like I say, I've always been one. I was in a situation here just in a couple of days where I was in a situation of a network marketing group that there was a guy that was just a bully, and nobody really wanted to stand up. And I've always been the believer that you go up and you punch the schoolyard bully in the face, and that stops and shuts him down. Like I can't allow this kind of trash and bullshit to go on. So I commend you, Mark, for calling him out. And I think it's a good lesson for everybody all to take a look at the character of somebody that would do that, and and challenge them. Listen, we're all citizens of the poker world, and I think I'm truly disgusted by someone. Whether, like I say, I happen to like Phil Hellmuth very much. I consider him to be a friend. I did a great interview. We had a crew, and his mother came into town. Actually, his mother and my mother got to be pretty good friends. And, we did, and it was a very interesting interview. We were talking about the number of bracelets he had at the time, which I think was 9 or 10, and that was going back a few years ago. And and he said, "Listen, I have a sense of entitlement. I believe I deserve it." And he's arrogant, and he is what he is. But you know what? We all are who we are. And so, listen, you can say what you want in this world, but you know what? Be a man and stand up and defend yourself, defend your comments, and don't go out there and hide behind the shroud of the internet and be a tough guy. Don't be a coward. Stand up and be a real man. Don't be a jackass.
Yeah, and this is another thing where I just find him to be very hypocritical. It's like, okay, so Phil Hellmuth came up on the stage of the one drop, shook his hand. If he didn't want to shake, if he was that disgusted by Phil Hellmuth coming up and getting on camera, he should have walked away from him.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put your hand down and walk away.
Yeah,
that's pretty simple. And then,
or if you got something to say, well, you're in a national media forum like that. Why don't you say it right there while the cameras are rolling, where a guy can stand up and defend himself like a man?
Yeah, and then and to come out and say that Phil's promotional, is a whore and a cancer and everything else, and then what you do. This is the thing. This is one of the things that I hate most in the world is someone that sits there and snipes and snips and says you're not doing this right. You don't do this. You don't do that, or criticizes somebody from afar, but then doesn't present a solution to the problem. There's no Dan Coleman is when he's doing this is saying these things, but he's not coming out and saying, but here's what I'm going to do to make it better. This is what I would do to make it better. No, all he's doing is sitting there and hiding and taking his pot shots. And obviously, to this point, I'm really starting to believe this is a strategy on his part, because at some point he's going to do an interview and everybody's going to fall head over heels to get it. And, I mean, if Dan called me and said, I want to come on the show, I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's do it, man. Let's have, just be ready. I'm coming after you. But you can't, but you can't criticize and just criticize without coming up with a way to correct it. And Dan, and this is the thing, I don't have, I didn't just win, 15 million or, $20+ million this year. I don't have the money to go out and try and make it better. He does. Mm-hmm. He's in a position where he can do that now. He could go out, and if he wants to clean up poker and change things, he could legitimately make a difference. But he's not. All he's doing is being a troll right now, and it's unfortunate. It really is. And I can echo with you on Phil. Quick Phil Hellmuth story for me at the World Series 2 years ago or last year. Phil was doing all this taping stuff. It was during the main event, and I've been trying to get Phil lined up for an interview. And it was like the next to last day, and I asked Phil. I ran into him and I said, "Would you be able to do an interview tomorrow?" And he said, "Well, let me see. If I can jam it in, I will. I promise, Mark. I'll do my best." And then about like 9:30 that night, when I was getting ready to pack up, he said, "Mark, I'll tell you what I can do. If you want to do this, I'm going to be done with my stuff at 11 o'clock after he'd been running around there all day. Yeah. If I can come back at 11, I'll do the interview for it, and I'll sit down as long as you need." And I'm just like, are you, and I was just sitting there saying, my God, this is a guy that doesn't need to do that. Mm-hmm. But here he's going to come back and do an interview with me for however long it was, and end up being like, I think, a 35 or 40-minute interview with him. And, he doesn't have to do that. Yeah. He's one of the biggest celebrities in poker. He doesn't need to do that, but he did it because he's the kind of guy. That's the kind of guy that he is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I say, I remember. I'll never forget that. When the bar closed down, we went. Lane Flack almost impaled himself on the riding bull in this little bar in Palo Alto, and then we all went back. Went back to Phil's place. He opened a couple bottles of Cristal, but between 3:30 and 5 in the morning, he took. We sat and just one-on-one. The guys were playing. Gavin was there, and Seabach, a few of these guys, and playing with Phil's son was there, and but just with real sincerity, wanted to talk to me and know more about me, and not because just he was just simply I was astounded by the quality of his character, and I'm privileged to to call him a friend, and listen, there's things that he does that goes over the top, and we all do. But as far as Coleman goes, I got lots of people. I've got in every city. We've got players that don't want notoriety. They don't want pictures taken. They don't want to do interviews. They don't want their names on the results sheet for whatever reason it is, and that is cool. And you know what? And I respect that, and we celebrate that, because this game is for people for what they want to make out of it, and that's cool. But those people aren't then coming out there and then drawing more attention to themselves by going into a forum that so that's the there's just something that I don't get about this. And you're right. There, to me, there must be some sort of strategy that's involved of or maybe it's just such a need for attention to do something like that. But I really have highly questioned this guy's character for doing that. And I don't know the guy. I've never met him. I don't know any of his friends. I'm sure some of my friends are friends with him, and I'm open to discussing it more. But you know what? really, really disappointing as a matter of character and as a man in this world today. Have a little bit of class. Don't be a jackass.
Yeah, and Casino Examiner, the chat box, saying Phil Hellmuth is no saint with the UB scandal. Dan Coleman is just a kid with a loose cannon, but he did not rip off players as UB did. And there's and I do understand there's questions about what Phil has not answered questions about UB. I certainly could understand there's resentment out there about that. Now, when those tapes came, the Russ Hamilton tapes came out, according to what they were saying in that room. That they tried to keep Phil in the dark as much as they could about all this stuff going on, which, to be honest with you, I believe they wanted to protect Phil Hellmuth. That's their biggest asset. So, I don't know what went on there. I mean, I've heard stories about Andy Duke with UB and everything else, but I can't confirm all those kind of things. I mean, it's just people telling me stuff that with no proof. But
listen, I'm not defending anybody on any point. There's lots of people in the poker industry that have, done a lot of things over their lives or whatever. But I'm just saying, just in terms of, as a basic move in life and as a basic representation of your character. I'll tell you what, you sure as hell wouldn't catch me putting something like that up online about somebody else without going to them and addressing them or giving them a chance to have a real forum. I got some people that I got some real issues with. And my approach is I love to sit down and really lay it out on the table and say, you know what, I think you're an SOB and this is why, and maybe I'm wrong. So please, tell me why I'm not wrong.
Right, exactly. Face up. I mean, Phil in the tweet in that response tweet, said it was it was a personal attack. It hurt him, but it is what it is. And
he's proud of the man. And he said, yeah, but I'm proud of the man I am. This is quote.
Right.
And you know what? That's cool. And we all have our own levels of character and integrity and happy. And listen, if I'm going out for a beer, I sure as hell would choose to go out with Phil Hellmuth before Dan Coleman.
Yeah. And, I was actually covering an event here with Dan, when he won this main event down here at Seminole Hard Rock this year, seemed very personable at the table. I didn't talk to him, but he was very nice at the table. A lot of people that have said that are around him say he's an okay guy, but this is just this is out of line. It is straight up out of line, and I would if the shoe was on the other foot and Phil Hellmuth said that Dan Coleman was a cancer to the world and everything else, I'd in a social media tweet I'd call out Phil too. It's not right. So
yeah. I say, it comes down to your basic character. And you either try to live your life as a positive and good person, or you can choose other ways. So I see as this industry evolves, I see a lot of the cream and the people that have invested and worked hard rising to the top and coming together. And as this industry is rationalizing, people are now starting to work together that have stood up and have made investments in terms of whether it's money, time, character, integrity, whatever it is. So, hey, listen, we've all made mistakes and we've all done things that, that we wish we hadn't in life, and nobody's perfect, especially in the poker world.
Yeah.
But to go out and to proactively promote such negativity, I just fundamentally think it's wrong.
Yeah. So we'll stop beating that horse for now, but I'm sure it's going to be a topic of discussion as we go through these event broadcasts here at the Seminole Hard Rock. But once again, the guarantee has been crushed here for this opening event with a $500,000 guarantee with one flight to go. Of course, if you're nearby, you still got time to get into flight 1F, and that registration actually doesn't close until after level 8. So you've got about 4 hours of play to get down here for that too. So you've actually got about 5 hours if you want to take a stab at this big event coming up here that's just rolling on here. Day 2 will be starting off tomorrow. And of course, once again, don't forget the main event coming up here on Friday, November 28th, $2 million guaranteed championship event. Kelly, if they get 4 million in entries, you know what they should do?
What's that?
They should keep $2 million of it because of all the money that they lost the last time.
I'm not sure about that, but
Yeah.
I love your insight.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do? I gotta pull a good joke every once in a while.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, what's the buy-in for that main event?
Buy-in for the main event is $3,500
That is,
USD,
I like it.
as the kids like to say. And by the way, we're going to be wrapping this up here, but don't forget, if you want to follow everything that's happening here at the Seminole Hard Rock Poker Open, or Rock and Roll Poker Open, go to shrpo.com. We've got the blog team, Al and Kayleen, just banging it out over here. Sensational job. Al is, by the way, looking sexy as usual with that beautiful hair. I need to grow hair like Al. I think that would work. Al,
You always get a
Al's-
man crush with somebody at an event, don't you?
No, I always have it. Al's my hero, so
Yeah.
it's all good.
That's cool.
Al's down. So, and of course, I'll be back on the blog here in a couple of hours. So make sure you follow all those live updates. If you want to catch us on, catch the tournament staff here on Twitter, that is right over my shoulder there at SHRPO or hashtag SHRPO, and keep up with all the action happening down here at the Seminole Hard Rock and Roll Poker Open here at Hollywood, Florida. I can't believe I haven't tripped up on that yet, by the way, Kelly.
No, you're doing
That's
you're
pretty
doing very
impressive.
good. You're a cunning linguist, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, the worst part was the last time around because the setup is so similar to what they do at Borgata that I mentioned the Borgata a couple of times while I was down here. I'm going to try to avoid doing that this time. So
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think you should put $20 in a Borgata jar if you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be okay this time. I just have Borgata flashbacks and I'm doing all right. So, yeah, so come on down and join us. And, of course, with the show, once again, just to remind you, we're going to be broadcasting out of here every day at 3 p.m. Eastern until we get to the Poker Night in America tapings, which, by the way, if you saw Gavin Smith kind of decide to do a zombie thing there on the taping, should be pretty interesting up there at the at Rivers Casino. But they're going to be down here starting officially December 1st, but I think they're going to try and get another taping in here on the day before. And, of course, they'll also be live streaming the main event championship on the 3rd, so it should be a whole lot of great stuff going on here, plus a ton of events in this series for you to come down and play. And I'm telling you, you want to have a chance to make some money, and you're a good player, you're going to have a chance to do it if you come down and play these events. There's a lot of opportunity to cash in, and we'll just leave it at that. So should be a good one. And, don't forget, and also our show on KLAV. We have 2 broadcasts on KLAV from here on the next 2 Wednesdays. Chad Holloway is going to be joining us on the 19th. The 26th is still open. We have a couple possibilities, and as soon as we know who that guest will be, we'll let you know. But that'll be on KLAV 12:30 a.m. and in Las Vegas, and KLAV1230am.com.
Why don't you get Dan Coleman and Phil Hellmuth on as 2 guests?
I should work on that. That'd be fun.
Just put a challenge out there, saying, "Listen, do it."
I
Tell them all of the people in Canada want to hear this.
I'm sure the people in the U.S. would want to too. So maybe that'll be the next tweet. All right, so there you go. And once again, real quick, thanks to all of our sponsors. Of course, our good friends at PokerShop.com, ABC Chinese Poker, Poker Night in America, our good friends at Blind Squirrel Apparel, and also BlueRail.net, RogueWire.com, PokerTilt.com, the Nevada Poker League.com, and the Grindettes. So that's going to do it. Kelly, I got to tell you, it is always a pleasure having you on the show. And anytime you want to join these other broadcasts, you let me know, because I will hold a space just for you.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. It's nice to be able to share some thoughts. And like I say, this, as this industry starts to evolve and that, I think what you're doing and the conversations that you help to create and facilitate are very, very important as we're emerging. So again, I want to say one thing to the players that are out there. Make sure you let your tournament directors and your casino managers know when you're not happy the way they're running events, because it's only through us coming together and challenging them and making this business make sense for everybody, from the players up. That's what we have to do. So I want to challenge each and every one of you. help recreate and redefine and build this industry. Don't settle for crappy structures. Don't settle for this because it doesn't have to be that way.
Yep.
Let's make this poker industry evolve into something that's truly profitable, enjoyable, and what it should be.
Amen, brother. All right. So that is going to wrap it up for us here on today's show. We're going to be back again tomorrow. And once again, don't forget to follow us on shrpo.com as we're going to have all the great updates from this tournament. You'll see where the final numbers ended up for this first event. And, of course, we got the horse tournament going on as well. I think I'm going to be getting coverage of that final table tonight, and hopefully it'll be a little more exciting than the last time. But thank you for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time here on the Mark Hoke Show. Kelly Kellner, thank you for joining us, and we'll
Thank you, my friend.
and we'll see you guys later.